Community support groups, and further information and making contact. Community support groups. For some people, joining a community support group can be a helpful way to receive support and stay engaged in the recovery work they are doing. Some people may join a community support group without having had therapy, but a community support group can often be a natural step down from the intensity of therapy. Perhaps there is a community support group for those who experienced childhood harm you can find that may help you. If not, perhaps you can play a role in developing one. We have seen community support groups developed by experienced service users who have completed therapy and done good recovery work, often in close cooperation with mental health services. A community support group for people who experienced childhood harm shares certain characteristics with individual or group therapy, but is also distinct. Some features are described below. 1. It's common for individual or group therapy to meet on a weekly basis. The intensity of formal therapy seems to require a greater frequency of sessions. A community support group may meet weekly, but less frequent meetings are common, e.g., monthly or fortnightly. 2. Some community support groups are facilitated by an individual or individuals who experienced childhood trauma but have done therapy and feel confident in their recovery work, and it can be helpful for them to have had some training in group facilitation and counseling. Other community support groups are facilitated by a qualified clinician or are co-facilitated by a qualified clinician and someone who experienced trauma and has done recovery work. Either can work well, but it's usually important for the group to have a facilitator. 3. Community support groups can be less formal than therapy, and a lot of what happens revolves around members talking, listening, and offering support to one another. However, there are other ways the group can be used, e.g., occasionally having speakers join a session. 4. Safety and confidentiality are just as important in a community support group as in group therapy. For example, protecting members' identity and information, not communicating what occurs in a session on social media, and being clear about the limits concerning confidentiality. 5. In group therapy, there is often a rule against individual socializing outside group sessions. Community support groups do not normally have such a rule. 6. The structure of what happens in a community support group session can be determined by the members and facilitators. However, being clear on what this structure is can add a sense of safety and stability. Some groups start with a check-in where each member has an opportunity to let others know how they are, whether something important or difficult is going on for them, and whether they need any particular help. From the check-in, the group may decide what they want to do with the rest of the time. Perhaps certain members need particular attention in that session, or there is an important theme which is coming up that everyone can discuss together. This is only one process, and there is no correct way a session must be structured. 7. Therapy groups are often limited in the number of sessions. Community support groups tend to run on an ongoing basis, so there is usually no time limit concerning membership. Some members will eventually leave the group, often when they have done the work they need to, or some may move out of the area. A member may need to return if they hit a very difficult patch in their life. Knowing the group is there can be reassuring. A good size for a community support group is similar to group therapy, somewhere between 4 and 10, with 6 to 8 being common. If attendance gets much larger than this, a decision needs to be made. One way of resolving the issue is to start another community support group. 8. Some community support groups can create ways of communicating via social media platforms as well as in person. But if this occurs, it needs to be thought through carefully, especially concerning the issue of confidentiality or dealing with potential risk. Further information and making contact. The HTP Community website. The HTP website can be found at www.htpcommunity.org. The website allows you to connect with others, share your views, ask questions, make contact, and access further information. Free audio versions of the two HTP guidebooks are also available for download at the website. Alternatively, you can access the audio versions on YouTube. When on YouTube, search using the words at the Historical Trauma Program. Should you wish to support the HTP, if you found the Historical Trauma Program beneficial, we would be grateful if you could encourage others by leaving a review on Amazon. Leaving a review on the Amazon site you normally use is really helpful. And if you have time, you can even use your normal username and password to log in separately to amazon.co.uk, amazon.com, amazon.ca, and amazon.au, and leave your review on all sites. Contact. If you wish to get in touch concerning the Historical Trauma Program to share your insights or feedback or request further information, you can do so through a link on the website www.htpcommunity.org or emailing htpcontact43@gmail.com. However, if you are experiencing risk or need immediate clinical assistance, please do not use this email address, but instead contact your primary doctor, clinician, or emergency services in your area. This ends the audio for the Historical Trauma Program, a guidebook of hope and recovery for people who experienced childhood abuse, neglect, or abandonment.